Today, let us have a discussion on cholinergic system. Our topic is cholinergic system, and the drugs which are acting on cholinergic system are called cholinergic drugs. Before discussing about cholinergic system, let us discuss about parasympathetic nervous system. Let us consider this is our central nervous system, midbrain and hindbrain and cerebellum. Now, let us consider this is our central nervous system. There are special kind of nucleus. There is a special kind of nucleus in the cerebral hemisphere that is called Adinger-Westphal nucleus. Now, from this nucleus, there is a special set of nerves will be arising from this nucleus. These are called third cranial nerves. It is called third cranial nerve, and it is preganglionic neuron. It is preganglionic neuron. Now, just below this Adinger-Westphal nucleus, there is another set of nucleus called superior salivatory nucleus. Superior salivatory nucleus. From here, a set of nerve will be arising. That is seventh cranial nerve. This is the seventh cranial nerve, and just below this inferior salivatory nucleus. From here, another set of nerve will be arising. That is ninth cranial nerve. That is ninth cranial nerve, and below this another set of nucleus will be present. It results in 10th cranial nerve, that is vagus nerve. This is preganglionic neurons. Now it will be ended in the ganglion. It will be ended up in the ganglion. Then it results in postganglionic neurons. These are preganglionic neurons and these are postganglionic neurons. Now, these third cranial nerve, postganglionic neuron of third cranial nerve will be ended up in the ciliary muscles. It will be ended up in the ciliary muscles. It is ended up in the ciliary muscles. Now, the postganglionic neuron of seventh cranial nerve will be ended up in two separate tissues. One is spinopalatine region. One is spinopalatine region, while the other one is submandibular region. These are the two regions in which postganglionic neuron of seventh cranial nerve will be ending. Now, the postganglionic neuron of third cranial nerve will be ended up in the otic region. It will end up in the otic ganglion. Now, this 10th postganglionic neuron of 10th cranial nerve will be ended up in the upper parts of our body, like thorax, neck, head, etc. Now, there are another set of parasympathetic outflow from the sacral, that is from S2 and S3. it will be ended up in the ganglion. And these are the post ganglionic neuron fibers, and it will be ended up in the abdominal parts. It will be ended up in the abdominal parts. Before discussing about the cholinergic system, this is the basic information to be remembered by a clever student. That is, third cranial nerve will be arising from the Edinger-Westphal nucleus. Seventh cranial nerve is arising from the superior salivatory nucleus, and ninth cranial nerve is arising from the inferior salivatory nucleus, and ninth cranial nerve is arising from the complex of vagus nerves. So these are, and these two are also the parasympathetic outflows, which results in entering into the specific respective tissues. Now, while we are discussing about the cholinergic system, we need to discuss about, before discussing about the cholinergic system, there is a neurotransmitter which is released at this area. The neurotransmitter which is released at the junction of ganglionic region is acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter which is released from the pre-ganglionic neural fibers, that is acetylcholine, and there is another neural fiber which is releasing from the post-ganglionic neural fibers, that is also acetylcholine. The neurotransmitter which is released from the preganglionic neuron as well as postganglionic neuron in the parasympathetic nervous system is acetylcholine, whereas the neurotransmitter which is released from the preganglionic neurons in sympathetic nervous system is acetylcholine, and the neurotransmitter which is released from the postganglionic neuron in sympathetic nervous system is norepinephrine. This is a difference between the sympathetic outflow and parasympathetic outflow, that is, here it is acetylcholine and acetylcholine, whereas in sympathetic nervous system here it will be acetylcholine and here it will be norepinephrine. Now let us discuss about the synthesis of acetylcholine and storage of acetylcholine and releasing of acetylcholine. Let us consider this is a ganglion. Now, from ganglion, this is a post-ganglionic neural fibers. This is post-ganglionic neural fibers. Now our topic is about synthesis of acetylcholine. Now a raw material is required for the synthesis of acetylcholine. What is that raw material which is required for the synthesis of acetylcholine? Is the raw material is choline. Choline is the important raw material which is required for the synthesis of acetylcholine. Where does this choline gets into our body is, that is, choline is coming into our body through the diet which we take. This is choline. This choline cannot directly enter into the post ganglionic neuron. There are special transporters which are present on post ganglionic neural fibers. These are special transporters for the choline, that are choline transporters, which helps in transportation of choline from outside to the inside. The choline will be entered at the inside of this post ganglionic neural fibers. Now, after choline which is entering into the post ganglionic neural fiber, it reacts with the acetylcholine. It reacts with acetyl-CoA. Choline which is entered into this post ganglionic neural fiber will react with the acetyl-CoA. Where does this acetyl-CoA comes from? It comes from the mitochondria. Now, one of the important point to remember is the choline cannot enter directly into the central nervous system. This choline will react with the another type of phospholipid that is called phosphatidylcholine. Then choline will react with the phosphatidylcholine and results in formation of special compound and enters into the central nervous system. In this way, the choline can enter into the central nervous system. Now, this choline along with acetyl-CoA will result in formation of acetylcholine. It results in formation of acetylcholine. Now, there is an important enzyme to remember for the formation of acetylcholine, that is acetylcholine transferase. Acetylcholine transferase is one of the important enzyme which helps in combining this choline and acetyl-CoA, which unite together to form acetylcholine. Now, this acetylcholine which is formed inside our post ganglionic neural fiber, there are membrane bound vesicles are present. These are the membrane bound vesicles. Now, on surface of membrane bound vesicle, there are transporters for acetylcholine. They are the transporters for acetylcholine, through which this acetylcholine will get entered. This acetylcholine will be stored in this area, that is membrane bound vesicles. Now, this is the formation of acetylcholine. Now, after formation of the acetylcholine, if we discuss about the releasing of acetylcholine into the targeted tissues, let us consider these are the targeted tissues. There are special channels that are sodium channels. On surface of the post ganglionic neural fibers, normally the resting membrane potential will be minus 70 millivolts. Whenever this minus 70 millivolts is resting membrane potential, then the minus 70 will get increased, then it becomes minus 50. At this condition, some of the sodium ions will be moving inside. Along with sodium ions and calcium ions will be moving inside. So the positive concentration inside the postganglionic neurons will get increased. Then positive concentration inside the postganglionic neurons will get increased. Then acetylcholine will get stored in these membrane bound vesicles. How it is transported towards the outside means there are special proteins which are present on surface. These are called synaptobrevin. These are called synaptobrevin, and there are another protein that is called syntaxin. This is synaptobrevin and this is syntaxin. Now, as the resting membrane potential value will get increased when it reaches the positive 10 plus 10 millivolts, then there are special calcium channels on surface of membrane will get opened. As a result, the calcium will get coming to this inside. Now there are special domains on surface of syntaxins. Whenever the calcium ions comes into this area, these two domains are filled with the calcium which is positively charged, so that it gets repelled each other. So whenever it gets repelled each other, this synaptobrevin will comes to this area. It will be fuses with syntaxin, and ultimately there will be formation of vesicle here. Then acetylcholine will be released. Acetylcholine will be released from outside, from inside to the outside. In this way, the acetylcholine which is synthesized inside the postganglionic neurons will be transported towards the outside. Now, there are certain drugs which acts at this area, which inhibits the synthesis of acetylcholine and transportation of acetylcholine. There is a special drug let us consider. This is one special drug which is acting at the site of choline transporter, which will act on this choline transporter and inhibit the function of this choline transporter. Whenever the action of this choline transporter is inhibited, the choline cannot get entered into this postganglionic neural fiber. So whenever the choline cannot enter into it, it do not react with acetyl-CoA and there is no formation of acetylcholine. Now, the name of this drug which inhibits the choline transporter, that is, the name of this drug is called hemicolinium. Hemicolinium. The name of this drug is hemicolinium. Hemicolinium is a special drug which inhibits the choline transporter and which do not allow the choline to transport from outside to the inside of postganglionic neural fiber. This is the first drug which inhibits the synthesis of acetylcholine. Now, there is another drug which acts at this transporter region. Now, whenever the acetylcholine which is synthesized in the cytoplasm, it should reach inside the membrane bound vesicles. So there is a special transporter which transport the acetylcholine which is synthesized in cytoplasm into this membrane bound vesicles. Now there is a special drug let us consider. This is one special drug this is one special drug which inhibits the function of this acetylcholine transporter. The name of this drug is Vesimicol. This is a second drug. Vesimicol is a special class of drug which inhibits the transportation of acetylcholine, which is synthesized in the cytoplasm into the membrane-bound vesicles, that is Vesimicol. This is the first drug, that is hemicolinium, and another drug, that is Vesimicol. Now, there are two drugs. Now, there is another a type of bacterium, that is botulinum. Botulinum is a bacteria. Whenever the botulinum bacteria is entered, let us consider this is one bacteria, botulinum bacteria, which is entered into this postganglionic neural fiber. Now, it will inhibit the binding of calcium ions at this syntaxin, so that it will come towards this side, come towards each other, so that the synaptobravin cannot reach to this syntaxin. As a result, there will be no fusion of this syntaxin and synaptobravin. Then there will be no transportation of acetyl-CoA from inside to the outside. So this is the function of botulinum toxin. Now, in order to overcome this botulinum toxin, there is a special toxin that is called latrotaxin. Latrotoxin. Latrotoxin is a special toxin which is synthesized from the widow spider. Latrotoxin is a special toxin which is synthesized from the latrotoxin is a special toxin which is synthesized from the widow spider. Whenever a person who is suffering, who is affected with botulinum bacterium, then if we inject the latrotoxin into the person, then this latrotoxin will inhibit the action of this botulinum toxin, and it will bind the calcium ions to the syntoxin, so that whenever it is calcium ions are binded in this area, the positiveness will be increased. Because of the increase in positiveness, then there will be repelling of these two domains. Whenever there is repelling of these two domains, this synaptobravin will get reached towards this area. Then there will be fusion of this synaptobravin and syntaxin. As a result, there will be fusion of this membrane-bound vesicles towards the membrane, and there will be releasing of this acetylcholine into from the postganglionic fibers into the outer space. So this is another drug. Third drug. This is the first drug, that is hemicolinium, and next drug is Vesimicol, and third drug is latrotoxin. There are three drugs which are acting at this area, which is involved in inhibiting the synthesis and storage of Vesimicol, and these two drugs are involved in inhibiting the synthesis and storage of acetylcholine, whereas this latrotoxin involves in the transportation of acetylcholine, which is present in the postganglionic neural fiber into the outside. So this is some information about synthesis of acetylcholine and storage of acetylcholine and transportation of acetylcholine from postganglionic neural ends to the outside of this postganglionic neural fibers. Now, let us discuss about the action of acetylcholine, which is released into the outside area of postganglionic neural fibers on the targeted tissues or targeted receptors. Now let us discuss about the action of acetylcholine on receptors. Action of acetylcholine on receptors. Action of acetylcholine on receptors. Now let us consider this is central nervous system and this is postganglionic neural fibers. And these are preganglionic neural fibers and these are postganglionic neural fibers. Now let us consider this is a muscle. Before discussing about this topic, let us discuss about the types of cholinergic receptors. Let us discuss about the types of cholinergic receptors. The cholinergic receptors are of two types. One is nicotinic receptors while the other one is muscarinic receptors. These are the two types of receptors that are nicotinic receptors and muscarinic receptors. These are the two cholinergic receptors that are nicotinic receptors and other one is muscarinic receptors. Now, what are nicotinic receptors and what are muscarinic receptors? Let us discuss in detail about nicotinic receptors and muscarinic receptors. Let us consider this is one cell. Let us consider this is one cell and this is cell membrane and these are the 5 peptides. These are the 5 peptide bonds which are made up of amino acids. Now they have two channels. They have two special channels through which acetylcholine will get binded here. Acetylcholine will get binded here. Whenever the acetylcholine will get binded here, then the middle area will get opened up. The middle area which is present at this peptides will get opened. As a result, the sodium ions will get moved towards inside. Sodium ions will be moving towards the inside. Then minus 70 millivolts will get increased to positive 10 millivolts. Now, why it is called nicotinic receptors means it is activated by the ligand that is acetylcholine. Then there is a chance of activation of this special receptor that is nicotinic receptor with the help of attachment of nicotine. It is nicotine. It is acetylcholine. It is nicotine and it is acetylcholine. It can be activated with the help of acetylcholine and as well as it can be activated with the help of nicotine. In this way, it is called as nicotinic receptors. Now, these nicotinic receptors will be of two types. Let us consider this is a muscle and it is a post-ganglionic neural fibers, and this is a nicotinic receptor. Now it releases the acetylcholine. It releases the acetylcholine, which is binded to these special channels. It releases with the special. It attaches to the special channels. Now, whenever it is attached, sodium ions will get entered towards the inside. Whenever the sodium ions will get entered inside, then sodium gated channels will get opened. Sodium sensitive channels present at the surface of membrane will get opened. This entire receptor is voltage gated receptor, and this is ion receptors, and it is also called, this nicotinic receptor is also called ion channel. It is also called ion channel. It can be activated with the help of acetylcholine, and as well as it can activated with the help of nicotine. Now, this nicotinic receptor is present on surface of muscle, so it is also called N-M type. Nicotinic receptor which is present on muscle. This is N-M type. That is nicotinic receptor, nicotinic cholinergic receptors which are present on muscles. This is one type of nicotinic receptor. Now, let us consider another type of receptor. Let us consider this is the preganglionic neuron, and there is another postganglionic neuron. This is preganglionic neuron, and this is another postganglionic neuron. Now, there are in between, it consists of ganglion. This is the ganglion. So, there are nicotinic receptors present at this site. As a result, acetylcholine will get attached to these special domains. Acetylcholine will get attached to these special domains. Now, it involves in opening of sodium channels. So, these nicotinic receptors is present on neurons, that is ganglionic region. So, it is called nicotinic receptor present at neuron. These are NM type and these are NN type. NM type are nicotinic cholinergic receptors which are present on muscles, whereas nicotinic receptors present on membrane of neurons. These are the two types of nicotinic receptors, that are NM type and NN type. So these are the two nicotinic receptors. Now, these are called ion channels. There is another type of receptor, that is muscarinic receptors. Another type of receptors are called muscarinic receptors, that are another one are nicotinic receptors, and these are muscarinic receptors. Now, these muscarinic receptors, the initial letter is M. Let us write M here. This is letter M. Now, these muscarinic receptors are internally classified into 5 subdivisions. M1 type, M2 type, M3, M4 and M5. Muscarinic receptors are classified into 5 subdivisions: M1, M2, M3, M4 and M5. Now, this is the letter M. Now, let us keep one receptor here, another receptor here and another one here. Let us name it M1 and this is M2 and let us name this as M3. So, this is M1, M2 and M3 and let us draw one more line here. Let us draw this M4 and let us consider M5. So, these M1, M3 and M5, M1, M3 and M5, these are present at the upper region, so these are called excitatory muscarinic receptors. Excitatory muscarinic receptors. M1, M2 and M3, these are present at the higher region, that is higher altitude. M1, M3 and M5, these are called excitatory muscarinic receptors. Now, there are another type of receptor, that is M2 and M4 receptors. M2 type and M4 type. These are present in the lower region, so these are called inhibitory muscarinic receptors. Inhibitory muscarinic receptors. So there are totally 5 types of muscarinic receptors: M1, M2, M3, M4 and M5. M1, M3 and M5 are called excitatory muscarinic receptors, whereas M2 and M4 are called inhibitory muscarinic receptors. Now, let us discuss about internal signalings which are involved in the muscarinic receptors. Let us consider this is one cell on which these characteristic feature of M muscarinic receptors are, these are 7-pass receptors. These are 7-pass receptors: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. These are the 7-pass receptors. Now, let us discuss the mechanism of M1, M3 and M5 receptors. Now, whenever the acetylcholine is reached in this area, acetylcholine is attached to this muscarinic receptors, then internal signaling will get initiated. Whenever the internal signal is initiated, then there are special types of proteins which are present at the inside of this cell, that is alpha subunit, beta subunit and gamma subunit. These combined together is called GQ proteins. GQ proteins. So, whenever the acetylcholine is attached to this area, this internal signaling will get initiated. Internal signals will get initiated. As a result, this GQ protein will get attached to this posterior end. Now, after attaching this posterior end, then this beta and gamma subunits will get detached from here. There will be only leftover, that is alpha subunit will get leftover. It's called GQ protein. Only alpha subunit will get leftover in this area. Now this alpha subunit will activate another special type of receptor, so another type of enzyme. It will activate the another type of enzyme. It will activate the another type of enzyme. The name of this enzyme is phosphokinase C. Phosphokinase C. The function of this phosphokinase C is it involves in proteolysis of special phospholipids. It involves in lysis of phospholipids, that is special type of phospholipids, that is phosphatidyl inosine phosphate. Phosphatidyl inosine phosphate. Now, whenever it undergoes lysis process, it involves in formation of two products. That is involves in inosine triphosphate and diacylglycerol. These are the two products which are formed from this. Now, this inosine triphosphate, which is formed, will activate the endoplasmic reticulum. There are special calcium channels on surface of endoplasmic reticulum. Now this IP3 will stimulate these receptors or stimulate these special channels so that the calcium will get entered from outside to the inside or from inside to the outside. Then it will activate special complex, that is calcium calmodulin complex. Calcium calmodulin complex. Calcium calmodulin complex will get activated and it activates the special channels which are present in the membrane, which involves in transportation of potassium ions. So this is positive response. Now this diacylglycerol will activate the special it will open the special channels which helps in transportation of sodium molecules towards the inside. In this way, there will be actioning of M1, M3 and M4, that is excitatory response of muscarinic receptor 1 type and 3 type and 5 type. In this way, there will be response of M1, M3 and M5, whereas if we discuss about the response of M2 and M4, that will be inhibitory responses. It will be inhibitory responses, that is, let us consider this is one cell and this is muscarinic receptor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Whenever the acetylcholine is attached here, it will get stimulated. Then inside the cell, the G inhibitory protein will get activated. It is combination of alpha, beta and gamma. Whenever it is activated, this alpha and beta will get removed. Only alpha subunit will get present in this area, that is G inhibitory protein. Whenever G inhibitory protein will get stimulated, then it activates special enzymes, that is called This is a special enzyme that is called adenylyl cyclase. Adenylyl cyclase. Whenever adenylyl cyclase is activated, then it decreases the cyclic AMP. Cyclic AMP will get decreased. Whenever the cyclic AMP level will get decreased, protein kinase activity will get decreased. Protein kinase activity will get decreased. In this way, M2 and M4 types of receptors will show its action, that is inhibitory actions. This is the internal signaling which is involved in the muscarinic receptors. Now, let us discuss about the drugs which are acting on cholinergic systems. Drugs acting on cholinergic system. Drugs acting on cholinergic system. Drugs which are acting on cholinergic system are classified into two different forms. One is direct acting drugs. Direct acting drugs. Another group of drugs are called indirect acting drugs. There are two different types of drugs which are acting on cholinergic system, that is direct acting drugs and indirect acting drugs. Now, how these direct acting drugs and indirect acting drugs are acting on cholinergic system means, let us consider this is our central nervous system. And this is a parasympathetic outflow. Now, there are targeted tissues on which the acetylcholine which is released from this postganglionic neuron fibers will be acting at this area, at this muscularis area, at this muscle area. Now, with the help of, there are special nicotinic receptors or muscarinic receptors. Sorry, this muscle do not contain muscarinic receptors. It contains only nicotinic receptors. Now, this acetylcholine which is released with the help of nicotinic receptors will get entering into this targeted tissue, but the acetylcholine which is released from this postganglionic neural tissue, postganglionic neural nerves ending should be digested at this area. How this catabolism of acetylcholine is done means, there is a special enzyme This is a special enzyme that is called choline esterase. Choline esterase is a special enzyme which will catabolize the acetylcholine which is released from the postganglionic neural fibers and preganglionic neural fibers, so that new acetylcholine molecule will get attached to these nicotinic fibers. So, in this way, the choline esterase function is involves in the catabolism of catabolism of acetylcholine. Now, what is how these direct acting drugs and indirect acting drugs are acting means, now these direct acting drugs will directly act on nicotinic receptors, and also let us consider this is our heart. On which it consists of muscarine receptors. Now, these direct acting drugs will directly act on nicotinic receptors and muscarinic receptors, and will increase the affinity of these muscarinic receptors and nicotinic receptors, so that acetylcholine will get absorbed more efficiently, and acetylcholine will be absorbed more efficiently, then action potential will be generated more easily. This is the action of direct acting drugs. But indirect acting drugs are the drugs which will also initiate or will stimulate the acetylcholine, but in indirect manner, so that it will inhibit the action of these choline esterase. It will inhibit the action of this choline esterase. Whenever the action of this choline esterase is inhibited, the function of this choline esterase is catabolism of acetylcholine, which is synthesized. So whenever this choline esterase is inhibited, the acetylcholine which is synthesized will not be catabolized. So it is directly entered into the muscarinic receptors and nicotinic receptors. In this way, direct acting drugs and indirect acting drugs are acting on cholinergic system. Now, let us discuss about direct acting drugs first. These direct acting drugs are again classified into two forms. One is muscarinic and other one is nicotinic form. These are the two forms of direct acting drugs, that are muscarinic form and other one is nicotinic form. Now again, this muscarinic is divided into two forms. One is, first form is it will be acting on choline esterase. It will be acting on choline esterases, and another form, it will be available in form of alkaloids. So this is classification of direct acting drugs, that is, it will be divided into muscarinic form and nicotinic form. But this muscarinic again classified into two forms. One is choline esterase and other one is alkaloids. Now, the examples under choline esterases are, first one is acetylcholine. And other one is bethanicol, and other one is carbachol, and other one is methacholine. These are the four different types of drugs which are acting on choline esters, that is acetylcholine, bethanicol, carbachol and methacholine. These are the four drugs which are acting on choline esterases. Now there is another drugs which are acting like alkaloids, that is, first one is muscarine. Second drug is pilocarpine. These are the special drugs which are acting in form of direct acting drugs, that are acetylcholine, bethanicol and carbachol and methacholine, muscarine and pilocarpine. So let us discuss in detail of these drugs. First, let us discuss about the first drug, that is acetylcholine. Normally, the acetylcholine is not used directly or more efficiently in our body because first reason is it is having shorter half-life period. It is having shorter half-life period, and this acetylcholine cannot directly enter into the central nervous system. Not enter directly into CNS. It cannot directly enter into the central nervous system, but when it is reacted with the phosphatidylcholine, then it can enter into the central nervous system. And next point is it has more diffusing capacity, so that this acetylcholine can bind with the nicotinic receptors and as well as muscarinic receptors. It bind with nicotinic and muscarinic receptors. It can bind with nicotinic receptors and muscarinic receptors. And one of the disadvantage of this acetylcholine is they cannot cross the biological barriers. They cannot cross the biological barriers, that is, they cannot cross the blood-brain barriers. This is the first drug, that is acetylcholine. Now, let us discuss about second drug, that is bethanicol. Bethanicol is the another type of drug which is acting on directly on muscarinic receptors. Now, in bethanicol, the acetyl group is substituted by carbamate. Acetyl group is substituted by carbamate. Now, in bethanicol, B, first letter is B. It involves in activation of B, letter B. B means it involves in activation of bowel, and it also involves in activation of or stimulation of urinary bladder. It involves in congestion, whenever if there is any abnormalities or any congestion in the gastrointestinal tract, then bethanicol can be given. If there is any abnormality, any dysfunction in the urinary bladder, then bethanicol can be given. Now, it can be given in another condition, that is postpartum urinary infections. It can be even given in this condition, that is, if there is any urinary infections, then bethanicol can be given. Now, there is another condition, that is atonic stomach. In atonic stomach condition, then bethanicol can be given. But there are some side effects of bethanicol that are there are some side effects of bethanicol that are it involves in fever, sweating, and urgency, blurred vision, etc. These are some side effects, and there are some contraindications for this bethanicol. Contraindications. There are certain patients who are suffering from certain diseases, they cannot take this bethanicol. That is, first one, if any person suffering from the peptic ulcer. If any person is suffering from the peptic ulcer, they cannot take this Betanicol. Or if any person suffering from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorders, then the person who is suffering from chronic obstructive pulmonary disorders cannot take this Betanicol. And if a person who is suffering from atherosclerosis, cannot take this Betanicol drug, and person who is suffering from Parkinson's disease cannot take this Betanicol. Person who is suffering from the Parkinson's disease cannot take this Betanicol. This is second type of drug. And another type of drug that is Carbachol. Carbachol, it is also direct acting muscarinic drug. Acetyl group is substituted by carbamate. But one difference between the Betanicol and carbamate is it contains the methyl group. But in Carbachol it do not contains methyl group. No methyl group. Now, to whom this Carbachol can be given means the person who is suffering from glaucoma, this Carbachol can be given. In case of glaucoma, person who is suffering from glaucoma, then he can be given. This is about Carbachol. This first one is acetylcholine, second one is Betanicol, and third one is Carbachol, and fourth drug that is methacholine. Methacholine is another type of drug which is directly acting on muscarinic receptors. When does this methacholine can be given means the person who is suffering from hyperreactivity of bronchial system. Hyperreactivity of bronchial system. The person who is suffering from hyperreactivity of the bronchial system, they can be given this methacholine drug. Now, this is acetylcholine and Betanicol and Carbachol and methacholine. Now, there is another type of special drug which is acting directly on muscarinic receptors. There is another type of drug which is directly acting on muscarinic receptors, that is pilocarpine. Pilocarpine is a special drug which is acting directly on muscarinic receptors, which is acting directly. Now, in what conditions this pilocarpine can be given means this pilocarpine is tertiary amine. It is tertiary amine. Now, it is given in case of glaucoma. What is glaucoma means? Increase in the intraocular pressure within the aqueous chamber is called glaucoma. Let us consider. Let us consider this is the structure of eye, and in aqueous chamber it consists of special network on either sides. This special network is called trabecular network. Now, on either sides of this trabecular network, it consists of special venous system, venous blood vessels. These venous blood vessels are called, the green color structures are the blood vessels which called canal of Schlimpf. Canal of Schlimpf. Now, let us consider these are the ciliary bodies. Now, from the ciliary bodies, this aqueous chamber secreting the liquid and it is entering towards the aqueous chamber. Now, this glaucoma is of two types. One is open angle glaucoma while the other one is narrow angle glaucoma. Before discussing about this narrow angle glaucoma and open angle glaucoma, what is angle means? When this liquid which is synthesized from this ciliary process entering into the aqueous chamber, it is going in this way and entering to this area and entering in this area, and it will reach this trabecular network and will reach the venous drainage. Now, whenever it reaches the venous drainage, then from venous drainage it will reach the superior regions. It will reach the superior regions. So, in this way, the drainage system can be studied in this eye. Now, there is a special angle which is present in this area. It is 90 degrees in this area. It is 90 degrees. Now, what is open angle glaucoma means? In open angle glaucoma, there is no change in the angle, but these canal of Schlimpf, that is venules which are present in this area, will get constricted. So, whenever these venules in this area will get constricted, then the pores which are present in these veins will get constricted. As a result, this liquid cannot enter from these veins, so that they cannot enter into the superior area. As a result, the liquid will get stopped at this region only. As a result, the acetylcholine will be accumulated in this area. This acetylcholine will get accumulated in this area, and there are certain drugs which are acting in this area and will bring or will push this ciliary process towards the inner side. It pushes this ciliary process towards the inner side. As a result, these canal of Schlimpf, that is veins, will get relaxed from this area. Whenever it is constricted, these special drugs, the function of this special drug is it will pull this ciliary process towards the backside, so that these veins will be present at that area. So the constricted veins will be relaxing at that position, here and here. Whenever it get relaxed, then the pores in these veins will get opened. As a result, the liquid will get can easily. What is that special drug means? That is pilocarpine. This is a special drug which is pilocarpine, which is given in form of drops. Now, this is open angle glaucoma. There is no difference in the angle, but there is constriction in the veins. Now, what is narrow angle glaucoma means? In narrow angle glaucoma, this is the pupil. This pupil will get enlarged. The shape of the pupil will get enlarged. As a result, the iris will be, let us consider this is the iris, and here this is the pupil. Whenever it is elevated in this area, in this manner, then the pupil, shape of the pupil will get changed. In this way, the pupil will get modified. The pupil will be modified in this slide. like this structure. So there are special drugs which are acting in this area so that the size of these people will be decreased to its normal range. So as a result, the size of this iris will get increased. What is that special drug means? It is also called pilocarpine, which is acting in two conditions, that is open angle glaucoma and narrow angle glaucoma. The pilocarpine is given in these conditions. Now there is another condition that is called xerostomia. What is xerostomia? Xerostomia is a condition in which the mouth becomes dry. Whenever the mouth becomes dry, this pilocarpine can be given, then the mouth will become wet. Now these are the some conditions in which this pilocarpine can be given. Now these are some drugs which are acting directly on cholinergic receptors. Now let us discuss about indirect acting drugs. Indirect acting drugs. Drugs which are acting indirectly on cholinergic receptors. There are again classified into two forms. One is reversible and other one is irreversible. Indirect acting drugs are classified into two forms. One is reversible drugs and other one is irreversible drugs. What is the function of reversible and irreversible drugs? Now let us consider this is cholinesterase. This is cholinesterase enzyme. Acetylcholinesterase. Now these reversible, whenever these reversible acting drugs are acting at this area and inhibiting the cholinesterase, whenever the reversible indirect acting drugs are acting at this area, there is a chance of acting only up to 10 to 20 minutes or maximum 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, these drugs, action of these drugs will get disappeared. Then the cholinesterase function will become normal. This is reversible drugs, whereas irreversible drug is a drug whenever it is binded to this receptor or whenever it binded to the enzyme. Once it is binded to this enzyme, it will be permanent. They cannot be removed from this cholinesterase enzyme. This is a difference between reversible and irreversible. Now these reversible and indirect acting drugs are also called anticholinesterases. Anticholinesterases. There are certain drugs which are acting in reversible manner and there are certain drugs which are acting in irreversible manner. The first drug which is acting in reversible manner is physostigmine. Physostigmine is the first drug which is acting in reversible manner. Second drug is neostigmine. physostigmine and neostigmine, and another drug is pyridostigmine. Physostigmine, neostigmine, and pyridostigmine, and the another drug is called edrophonium. These are the 4 drugs which are acting in reversible manner. Now, if we discuss about physostigma, neostigma, and pyridostigma, it contains carbamate group. It contains the carbamate group, and these are tertiary amines. These 3 are the tertiary amines, whereas edrophonium it contains alcohol group, and it is quaternary amine. And there are certain drugs which are acting. Now these are the drugs which are acting in reversible manner. That is physostigma, neostigma, physostigmine, neostigmine, pyridostigmine, and edrophonium. These are the 4 drugs which are acting in reversible manner. And there are certain drugs which are acting on as irreversible manner. That is isoflurafate. Isoflurafate is the first drug, and isoflurafate and ecothiofate. Isoflurafate is a drug which is acting in irreversible manner, and ecothiofate is a drug which is acting as irreversible manner. So these are the drugs which are acting in reversible and irreversible manner. Now let us discuss about each and every drug. Let us discuss the first drug, that is physostigmine. This physostigmine contains similar properties like bethanechol. It helps in stimulating the bowel movement, and it also involves in bladder movement, and it can be given in case of glaucoma. And whenever the cholinergic activity is decreased, then the physostigma can be given. Cholinergic activity is decreased in case of atropine. In this condition, the physostigmine can be given. There are some side effects of this physostigmine, that is some side effects. It involves in paralysis. Paralysis is the first side effect of physostigmine, and it involves in overstimulation of central nervous system. Overstimulation of central nervous system, and it can be given in certain conditions like tricyclic antidepressant. And another drug, that is neostigmine. This is physostigmine, and other one is neostigmine. This neostigmine, they cannot directly enter into the central nervous system. enter into central nervous system, and these neostigmine can be given in conditions like myasthenia gravis. It can be given in conditions like myasthenia gravis, and it also involves in stimulation of bowels and bladders. This is the second drug, and another drug that is pyridostigmine. Compared to all the drugs, physostigmine and neostigmine, this pyridostigmine consists of more half-life up to 6 hours. These are the drugs which are acting indirectly on cholinergic receptors. Now, which are acting in reversible manner. There are certain drugs, that is physostigmine, neostigmine, and pyridostigmine, and edrophonium. Compared to this physostigmine, neostigmine, and pyridostigmine, edrophonium consists of less half-life period. Less half-life period when compared to this physostigmine and neostigmine and pyridostigmine. This is about direct acting and indirect acting drugs which are acting on cholinergic system. Now, let us discuss about the drugs which are anticholinergic drugs. Anticholinergics. These are the anticholinergics are the drugs which are acting against to the cholinergic receptors. Let us consider this is preganglionic neuron, and this is postganglionic neuron, and these are the muscles in which the acetylcholine will be reached to these areas, on which it consists of, this muscle consists of nicotinic receptors, whereas heart consists of muscarinic receptors. Now, anticholinergic drugs are the drugs which will be acting on these cholinergic receptors, that is nicotinic receptors and muscarinic receptors, and will inhibit the function of these nicotinic and muscarinic receptors. Nicotinic and muscarinic receptors function will get inhibited, so that this acetylcholine cannot enter into these targeted tissues. In this way, the anticholinergic drugs are acting. Now, let us discuss in detail about anticholinergic drugs. These anticholinergic drugs are classified into two forms. One is anti-muscarinic drugs. While the other one is anti One is anti-muscarinic drugs and other one is anti-nicotic drugs. Anti-nicotic drugs. These are the two classes of anticholinergic drugs. What are anti-muscarinic drugs and anti-nicotic drugs? Anti-muscarinic drugs are the drugs which will be acting on muscarinic receptors and inhibit the function of muscarinic receptors. Anti-nicotic drugs are the drugs which will work on nicotinic receptors and inhibit the nicotinic receptors. Now, as we know that these muscarinic receptors are of 5 types: M1, M2, M3, M4 and M5. These anti-muscarinic drugs are again classified into 3 forms. Certain drugs which are there are certain drugs which will be acting on all types of muscarinic receptors, that is M1, M2, M3, M4 and M5. It will be acting on all 5 types of receptors. These are called non-selective anti-muscarinic receptors. Non-selective anti-muscarinic receptors. Non-selective anti-muscarinic receptors. There is another class of drugs that are called selective anti-muscarinic receptors. Selective anti-muscarinic drugs. These are non-selective anti-muscarinic drugs and these are selective anti-muscarinic drugs. These selective muscarinic drugs are again classified into 2 forms. There are certain drugs which are acting on M1 receptors, which are acting on only M1 receptors, and certain drugs which are acting on M3 receptors. These two are excitatory receptors. There are certain drugs which are acting on M1 receptors only, and there are certain drugs which are acting on M3 receptors. Now, this is about anti-muscarinic drugs, and let us discuss about anti-nicotinic drugs. These anti-nicotinic drugs are again classified into 2 forms. One is the drugs which are acting on nicotinic receptors. The drugs which are acting on nicotinic receptors which are present on neurons. So, the drugs which are acting on nicotinic receptors which are present on neurons are called ganglion blockers. Ganglion blockers. These are called ganglion blockers. And another class of drugs which are acting on nicotinic receptors which are present on muscles, so that are called neuromuscular blockers. Neuromuscular blockers. This is some classification, basic classification of anticholinergic drugs, which are classified into anti-muscarinic drugs and anti-nicotinic drugs. Again, anti-muscarinic drugs are classified into 2 forms. One is the drugs which are acting on all types of receptors, that are M1, M2, M3, M4, M5, are called non-specific anti-muscarinic receptors or receptor drugs. And another type of drugs which are called selective anti-muscarinic receptors, which are acting on only M1 type of receptors and M3 type of receptors. Now, this is about anti-muscarinic receptors. And coming to the anti-nicotinic receptors, there are certain drugs which are acting on nicotinic receptors which are present on neurons and inhibit the action of this nicotinic receptor, that are called ganglion blockers. And there are another type of drugs which are acting on nicotinic receptors present on muscle and inhibit the function of that nicotinic receptor are called neuromuscular blockers. Now, if we discuss about the examples of non-selective antimuscarinic drugs, first example is atropine. Atropine is the first drug which is categorized under non-selective antimuscarinic drugs, and other one is scopolamine. And the second, there is drug which is acting on M1 receptor, that is called pirenzapine. Pirenzapine, Pirenzapine. Pirenzapine is a drug which is acting on only M1 type of receptors, and there is another type of drug that is darfenazine is a drug which is acting on only M3 type of receptors, that is DARIFENASINE. These are the certain drugs which are acting on antimuscarinic drugs, and there is another type of drug which is acting on ganglionic blockers. That is mecalamine. MECALAMINE. Mecalamine is the drug which is acting as a ganglionic blocker, and another neuromuscular blocker is tubocurarine. TUBOCURARINE. Tubocurarine is a drug which is acting directly on neuromuscular blockers. Now, if we discuss about the atropine in detail, this atropine can be given in conditions like mydriasis in eyes and retinopathy. And this, whenever this atropine is given, it will decrease the lacrimal secretion. Lacrimal secretion will get decreased, then it results in condition called xerostomia. And it will decrease the sweating process. These are some anticholinergic drugs which are acting on cholinergic system. This is about the cholinergic drugs which are acting on cholinergic systems.